Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for attending the meeting at this hour, I guess. It's kind of an odd hour to start a meeting, but here we are. So, call the meeting to order. We need an approval of the agenda and any additions. I have an addition, and what it is if you remember, we had tabled the motion back June 9th, and I have since received, or I received it today, the letter from him along with the petition signed, and maybe we can lift the motion off the table and discuss it. I have the motion here. Lori sent me the motion and I can read it when we get there. So that would be on for decision number 5F. So somebody moved the approval. I think I heard of. Okay, Kathy, seconded by Junior, Councilor Murphy. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. Conflict of interest declaration. Anybody has anything? And if you do come across something, it can be declared at when we reach the item. But if nobody has anything to declare right now. Okay, next one is adoption of minutes, regular council meeting of June the 23rd. Moved by Councillor Surratt or Deputy Warden Surratt, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. Business arising, the unsightly garbage bins. Now, there was a picture there. Who is going to take that? Councillor LeBlanc, you want to take that?
Yeah, so it's an ongoing thing here. We were supposed to discuss it at last meeting, but we got cut short there. Well, actually, we didn't get cut short. We got cut off, but it was a long meeting. So as you can see, you all have the link to the photo, correct? It was on the agenda. So it's been brought to my attention by a few residents that they're hoping to maybe have the municipality implement a bylaw stopping residents from having these bins so close to the road as a beautification type bylaw. We all know, we've heard about these bins. Some people have problems with rodents or whatnot, so people don't want them exactly close to their house. However, as you can see here, this one poses a highway risk. So I've been in contact with the Department of Highways, and believe it or not, they actually don't have any formal ruling. They treat, I should clarify, not that they don't have any formal rulings on these bins, but they treat these bins just like they would a mail. Allow them within their boundaries, within the 33 feet. However, if in the winter the snowplow smashes them up, that is on you. So as you can see from this one here, it was brought to my attention. I actually haven't discussed it with the residents yet. I was waiting more from, a little, maybe not guidance, but a little input from council, I should say, on how you guys feel about this situation and whether or not a bylaw holding these back out of sight maybe would be something we'd be willing to look at. Now, I've talked to the Public Works Department, and as some of you may be aware, the Public Works Department, I think, especially with COVID here, has their hands full. And from what I understood, it was suggested that there may be a lack of staffing if we were to implement such a bylaw and enforce it. So maybe our CAO can talk on that specific part. But I was asked to raise it at council, and here we are. It's basically, it's a beautification bylaw in one sense, and then there's also a safety risk in another. That's it.
Councillor Surratt.
Yes, I guess as far as Lucien, as I'm looking at the picture now, as far as, because it did say unsightly, and I thought you were going to speak about unsightly because I didn't find any problem with that for unsightly. Never found anything wrong with that unsightly as far as I know. Or not that picture anyhow. As far as making a bylaw, if we can't enforce it, I have questions with that. And that would be my comment. Thank you.
So I guess I may throw in Mr. Warden before someone else speaks. I guess I'm wondering, has anyone else heard in their districts any input regarding the unsightliness? Now I should mention, Councillor Surratt, there is obviously a safety hazard here. That one clearly is close to the road and could pose a problem. But the reason I bring it up is definitely mainly due to the unsightliness of it. So I'm curious if any other councillor has heard anything about it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? I haven't heard anything. I've never had a complaint in my district, but I don't know that there are any. So I'm not sure. Any other comments? So, what is the wish of council? What do we do with this? Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I was just wondering if staff could find time to check if there's other municipalities, if they do have like a policy or bylaw for such a thing before we try to go and invent something to see if there's anything out there. Would that be hard job? Would that be hard to do?
Would you like me to answer that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think there's varying policies and procedures. This exists in other places, I guess, to make it short. I don't know what it looks like because I haven't looked into it deeply. There's two ways to address that issue. One is beautification, and then you could potentially set a standard for what it looks like. But the second can actually be handled through your solid waste bylaw, which is that you can either restrict or regulate what people put at the end of their street as it relates to solid waste. So there's obviously on one side of the coin, there's having these types of things typically are an improvement to having the bags just laying on the side of the road. Technically, our solid waste bylaw says that you should be doing that less than 24 hours on the pickup, right? So that, however, even if people abide by the rules with wind and rodents and birds, you can have situations where the bags are, a mess everywhere. And so some people don't like that, and this has been their solution. So we can potentially guide them in what that looks like. It does not have to be a beautification bylaw per se. It can just simply regulate the kinds of things that are acceptable at the end of your road and where they ought to be located. So that would be an amendment to your existing solid waste bylaw. In terms of enforceability, we would deal with it the same way that we deal with all the other bylaws that we have. It would be based on a complaint system. We wouldn't necessarily be driving around actively telling people to move and change it. We don't necessarily have those resources, but we would respond to complaints.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to Councillor LeBlanc to maybe you have something to say about the answer here first.
Yeah, I just had a question for our CEO. So if we chose that route, what, in your eyes, what would the end result look like? If we restricted what's allowed at the end of the road, where would they be allowed is the big question, because I don't personally, I actually feel these bins are a handy thing. It's just, it was brought to my attention that people don't want them right directly near the road for people to see. So what would that look like in your eyes, in your opinion?
I think that without looking at it and just speculating, what I would speculate is that you would indicate a distance away from the road. For safety purposes, the plows can nail it in the winter if it's too close and other such things. So you could definitely provide and say that, look, you can do this. Here's how you can do it. And it has to be such and such a distance from the road. at that point, we'd likely have to consult with DOT because if it's in there right away, that's not our property, right? So, but we can regulate. I'm not sure our bylaw can regulate provincial property, but it can certainly regulate what people do on their own. So that would be what, without looking into it, I would say that you could do that. Yeah, you could also, have a minimum standard for what it looks like as well, and say here are the list of acceptable ways that you can do this.
Okay. Yeah, Deputy Warden Surratt.
Lucia, maybe you've answered this before, but just for my own, how many complaints have you had? Is it something that's quite rampant, like 30, 40, 50 phone calls, one person?
No, 2 individuals mentioned this, and I told them that I would bring it up at council.
Okay.
So, yep, no problem.
Okay, so do we just leave that as it is for right now, or do we, Councillor LeBlanc, you?
So I was going to make a motion that we look into it, but I'm sensing from the feedback I'm getting from council that maybe, I'm not quite sure, maybe we should consult with other communities, because I know what happens in my community will affect yours. And maybe it's, since I'm bringing it up here, maybe it's best that you guys consult with community members in your area and just take more of a look in your area, and then we can bring it back at the table. But I should mention, yes, there's 2 individuals in my district that did bring this up.
Okay. Everyone good with that? Okay. We'll move on to item 5 for decision. The first one is Love Yarmouth campaign. And this came from Yarmouth Area Chamber of Commerce. And what they're looking for, it's a buy local campaign. It's called Love Yarmouth. And what they're asking is for the municipality for $2,000. Yeah, there it is, $2,000 to support. And they've listed what the money would go for. I'm pretty sure that the municipality of Yarmouth has approved the $2,000. I'm fairly certain that I saw that on one of their meetings. So anyway, this is, yes, Councillor Digdon.
I'm a strong supporter of buy local, especially since we've had this COVID pandemic, and a lot of businesses are having a hard time here now. Some businesses have actually closed up because of the pandemic. And for $2,000, if we can help a few businesses stay afloat, I know there's some businesses from our area in the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, and I'd be willing to make a motion and that we give them $2,000. It's a one-time ask, I believe.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I'd make a motion that we give them $2,000.
And we have a seconder. Seconded by Councillor D'Entremont. Okay, any discussion or questions? CEO Muse.
Just for your information, there's 2 pieces to that request, and Digdon has made a motion on the second one. On the first one, where it talks about buy local, your policy already has that in place. So you already have a policy that considers buy local, and depending on the amount, at some point you can't actually use it. But for smaller transactions, we go local without. And so if we need 2 or 3 prices, 98% of the time we're going local with that, depending on whether it's available. If there are bids, if there's a bid required, the buy local component allows for a 10% reduction, just as they suggest in the bid, supporting the local bid. So if the bids were, even, the local bidder would win it.
That's right.
Up to 10% difference. So
we don't need a motion on that. We already.
No, I just wanted to inform you that you already have that.
Exactly. Yes.
Thank you, Muse, for explaining that.
Anybody else have any? If not, ready for the question, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contraminded. Is that a contraminded, a nay vote from Donaldson? No. Or were you just late in raising your hand? Okay, so motion carried. The next one is the Western Rand Inter-Municipal Agreement.
Richard was muted. I think Richard was making a comment, but he was muted.
Oh, he was making a comment.
Just to say it's the internet, delayed internet.
Okay.
You answered about 10 seconds after I said it.
So you were in favor. You just a little later. Okay, good. So the intermunicipal agreement with the Western Rand. So not a lot has changed on that one, has it, CO News?
I would defer to Councillor LeBlanc if he wishes, because I know that Councillor LeBlanc was very active on the Ren, and I'll support LeBlanc.
Yeah, actually, you've summed it up. Not a lot has changed. Some housekeeping. There's been little tweaks here and there. One, I'm trying to find it here. Oh, bear with me. Either way, nothing notable, nothing Municipality of Argyle should be concerned about, or nothing I feel really was necessary to consult. I'm quite confident this document is something it's a positive document, something we'd be willing to pass. So I will go ahead and make the motion that we pass the intermunicipal agreement.
Okay, it's been moved.
Approve, I should say.
Seconded by Councillor Bork. Any comments or questions? Seeing no hands, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contraminded? Carried. Municipal Consultation Workbook. Has anybody filled any of that out and sent it? We already had the meeting. Did you attend the meeting, CAO Muse?
I attended the morning session of the meeting. I wasn't able to attend the entire session. So for councillors that may have joined after I left, I'm not aware. The session that I joined, it was the code of conduct piece.
Okay. So is there anything else we have to do with this? Do we need it's for decision? What are we deciding on?
So Warden Muse, what your options are to do nothing and just simply let it go. If you feel that there are aspects of the document that you would like to comment on, you don't have to comment on all of them. You can comment on some. So for those issues that you don't have a whole lot of interest in, you don't have to answer. They've received a number of responses from a number of municipalities, and they've also received our responses, at least through me, on the code of conduct. Hopefully I represented you well. But so insofar as the rest of it, you don't have to submit anything. But if there are topics that you'd like to, send them what your thoughts are, then I think let's decide on what those would be, if any, and then discuss what the position of council would be on those.
Is there a deadline? I mean, there must be a deadline on this. I don't know when they want this, but this is
yeah,
for a while now.
It's the deadline was the 30th of June.
Yeah, so we're
told them to wait.
Told them to wait.
They didn't answer, but I told them.
Okay, so I guess all we can say is, you know, if anybody wants to go over it and send it, I don't know if it'll be accepted or not, but like I said, I'm not sure what we need here as a decision. There's really no motion that we can make on this. We haven't done anything, right? Or just to accept what CO Muse has recommended that to them. Do you need that? Or I can't see that you need that.
They would have received my comments
Yes.
as part of the consultation.
Right.
So they would have received those comments. They would not necessarily line them up to you as council.
Okay. So I guess, like I said, like CO Muse said, if anybody wants to comment on any of them and send them in, it's online, and by all means, go ahead and see if they accept the comments or not after the deadline. So we're okay with that, or any comments? Any? Okay, we'll move on.
So not hearing any comments, I'm not going to submit anything to the province.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Inter-Municipal Committee for Aquatics Centre. So we had a meeting. We had a meeting from what we call the Mariner Centre Steering Committee, and we had some discussions, but the committee felt that there was no mandate. We couldn't do much. We could discuss, and really nothing else could take place. There was no decision making. It was more or less just conversation. So it was decided that if we are going to meet, and the meeting would be, the committee would deal with two things: the Mariner Centre expansion, what we want to do, and what do we do in the meantime for the Y, for the Y, or I guess I could say for the aquatic part of it anyway. So this was put together. It's guidelines of what this committee would be, like the terms of reference, what they would be allowed to do. And as you can see, we would not be called steering committee or the Group 9 like we were called before, but it's the Argyle 2024. And then that would be, if you've all had a chance to read this, the guidelines and what the mandate would be for this committee. So CO Muse or Deputy Warden, you were there as well. Does any one of you have any comments on that? Do you want to expand on this? Not CO Muse, Deputy Warden.
Yes, just to inform the rest of my councillors, the rest of the gang, it was a good meeting. They wanted, like you said, Mr. Warden, they want to dissolve that Group of 9 and set up a couple of committees. One committee would look at the bridge funding for the YMCA Aquatics Centre, like the warden said, and set up a committee to look into possible funding, what it would take just to keep it going. Could we go possibly, one of the mandates of that committee about the bridging could be, do we use the pool in St. Anne's? Do we use the pool at the Raj Grand Hotel, let's say, or another pool somewhere where, let's say, the Y is not capable of opening? Could we, work with these people? So our some of the most vulnerable, some of the people that are, I guess, not only handicapped but have health issues could use the pool. Some of the youth at risk, or youth could go use one of the pools, whether it be the Y or wherever the case may be. We try to work with the people that have pools to see if it wouldn't cost us too much money, if it could work. That was one committee, and to work with the government on what kind of funding that they want, what's available what would it cost each unit? What would the cost be? Then bring this back up to our council on that piece. That would be the bridge funding to keep it going, because let's face it, on the other part, the Aquatics Centre at the Mariner Centre, we're looking, as you can see, 2024. That is 4 or 5 years away before everything is done, before they reach out. The other committee would be set up to look at how to advance the project, the Mariner Centre Aquatic Project. Look for, let's say, like people like Lickety Splits, Honeybee, or I'm exaggerating a bit. What kind of funding, like the Walmarts, the Superstore, the Sobeys, is there funding available from these people? This would be one of their tasks. The other task that the people on the Aquatic Committee would have to get that price from, we were way out of whack on the pricing and on what we wanted to do with a field house and everything. So what they would be looking at is how can we downsize that to a 20 million, 23 million project, whatever the case may be, to make it work. Where can funding come from? Feds, provincial, municipal, and the communities. And so I guess as the warden said, they're looking for a vote of confidence from each council to say, yes, let's get it going. That's my end of it. And maybe CAOUs could comment further. Thank you.
I think you hit every spot. I know that the municipality of Yarmouth unanimously passed this, so that's new information. Everything else, I think Deputy Warden Surratt hit on most, if not all, points.
So what we need now is an approval to form this committee. And when Deputy Warden Surratt mentioned 2 committees, these would be subcommittees of this. See, the group would still meet as one, that the 9 people or whatever would meet as one as well. But these would be subcommittees from that, working on 2 different aspects of the committee's mandate, I guess. Councillor LeBlanc.
I feel the same way as Councillor Surratt, so I'll make the motion that the Argyle 2024 committee be approved as a subcommittee of our council. And the suggested motion is with the mandate, principles, and objectives described as attached.
Okay. We need a seconder. Councillor Digdon, that's you're seconding? Okay. Any comments? Okay, Councillor Digdon, you had your hand up. You have a comment? Yeah.
Yes, the only thing I was gonna say is by all means, I'm glad this hopefully will get going, and I'm definitely happy to see where individual councillors will be able to attend these meetings. Unless it's an in-camera meeting, I don't imagine there'd be too many in-camera meetings or reason to go in camera, but I feel as though, and I know I've said it before, folks, but this is big dollars that's going to be leaving our area, going to hopefully for the betterment of everyone. But at the same time, I'd like to be able to sit in on these meetings and hear what goes on at these meetings. It's as simple as that. So I'm very happy to see that clause in there. Thank you.
Deputy Warden.
That darn Digdon there, he stole my thunder. Thank you very much. That's okay. I'm all set.
Councillor D'Entremont.
I'm just looking in the comments there, and I see that CAO Muse mentioned the Congres Mondial is the same year, and I know usually when the Congres does come somewhere, they leave, I guess you call it a legacy or whatever, legacy projects. So I know that we've been trying to get a track and field in a track in Panon-Bas, so I thought that maybe that would be a possibility for a legacy project for the Congres. Would the pool be a legacy project for Congres? We all gonna jump in and swim?
I just want to, I feel the question came was my way. So my apologies if it wasn't. But through you, Warden, is that it was not intended that the Mariner Centre expansion be part of a legacy project for Congres Mondial. The reference to Congres Mondial was more the name that we had chosen for the committee, which was Yargile, which the Congres Mondial is Clargile. So, and it's 2024. So I think it's the significance of the year and the combined name. You know, oftentimes I hear, and I don't mean this to be critical of Yarmouth town or of municipality, but oftentimes the name Argyle does not appear on some of these partnerships. So the fact that both names are in the group is, I feel like it's kind of a renaissance. Like it's another opportunity for us to say, okay, hey, you know, we're in this together and we're going to take a good hard look at this. Insofar as the legacy project is concerned, not that we have officially made that decision at council, but from my perspective, I've always identified the track and field as the legacy project from a capital perspective for Congres Mondial, because I suspect that the legacy projects will, the desire would be to want to have that in the communities that are mostly paying for the project, right? So Clare and Argyle. So Clare, I'm positive that the legacy projects that they would seek to do would fall in their community as well. And the last point I'd make on that is the pool project is large, it's massive. And I'm not sure we'll get there for 2024, but we ought to be planning well in advance in case that 2024 allows that opportunity. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you.
There's only one other point I would make on the motion that you've moved and seconded, is that there are specific rules that guide how we meet. So right now, because we're still under the state of emergency, we can do Zoom, okay? It's the only way we can meet, in fact, right now. So in the coming months where the meetings may go like face-to-face, I think from my perspective anyway, those that are non-voting, non-participants in the meeting, we could set up a Zoom opportunity for them to observe, right? So they wouldn't have, it's not their meeting, right? So they would basically be observing just like the community observes us when we go Facebook Live. So I think one of the things we've learned with COVID is that we might be able to make this quite convenient for our councillors that are not voting members. You know, Councillor Digdon, you know, it's often difficult for you to, with all your commitments, and I'm picking on you because you have a lot of commitments, and it's not always, you know, you want to be there, but you're not always able to be there because of the nature of your work, and others are in the same boat. So this Zoom it might be an opportunity, and so we'll raise that to in our inaugural meeting. We'll raise that with them, and I think we would still be within the rules by merely putting it out on Zoom for you to participate as an observer.
Thank you, CAO Muse.
Any other comments?
Question on the motion?
Question's been called. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contraminded? Carried. Next one is Intelivote. And I guess we've decided that that's the way we're going to go. We passed the motion at one of our meetings. And I guess all we're looking for here is for the agreement. So we have, if you've seen the document, so CAO Muse, you can take that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just two things. What we're going to hire Intelivote to do is to run the electronic election, of course. And also what I'm recommending is that we pay for them to scrub the list. And what they do is they use their technology to look at the provincial lists that they receive, that we will be receiving in days now. They will take that and they will assess, they'll apply their controls to see if there are any issues. It's a service that you would pay for. And so I would recommend that if you are on the same page as I would recommend that you allow me to sign a contract with Intelivote. We did not go through the procurement process because HRM did that on our behalf. So we did not, we are in abeyance of the procurement law because they went to tender on behalf of everyone. So we're good to engage with Intelivote for that reason. And also I would like for council to include the scrubbing, what I would call the electoral list review would be part of what we pay Intelivote for. So that would be what I would like to have endorsed by you today.
Okay. So, okay, go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Alain, this is for you. I know what we voted on. I voted on for it too. Alain, to just probably got something I've got. A paper ballot just a week prior, at the advance polls. Would that still be possible, or do you find it's going to cause so many problems? I was thinking there's still going to be a lot of people that are going to be confused and that will not be able to vote or won't go vote unless they had a paper vote. I just wish we had that option. Maybe I'm too late in what I'm saying. And if I am, then scrub it. But I was just, I still feel it's too bad we can't have that paper vote. For those that don't know, on the phone it's so confusing. And on the electronic votes, those that don't have a computer. Therefore, we're not missing anyone, but it would just be on the week prior to the actual vote on the Saturday, and just at an advance poll. Would that still be possible? And would that be quite expensive, or do you see a really problem with that?
Okay, so first of all, it is, I mean, I'm going by the motion of the last time we met, which was 100% electronic. But I also said, and I think Kathy raised this or Councillor Brooke raised this as an issue, you made that decision. I know you made that decision, and I know you didn't make it comfortably. And you would not be alone. Often there's a lot of councillors across Nova Scotia that express the same thing, that they really don't like the electronic version only. Some don't like the electronic version at all. So, and the province hasn't gone electronic, so they're certainly not in the position to criticize that decision because they haven't done it, you know. So I think at the end of the day, to answer your question, it is possible still today to change that course and to add paper ballot to the election. I would say, however, that we are still waiting for the province to come out with protocols to run a safe election. So they have a committee that was advised by some members of AMA and NSFM, but it's primarily provincial committee, that their job was to say, okay, how do we run a safe election in COVID? And that would include, in my opinion, a paper option. I haven't seen it yet. I imagine it'll be weeks before we see it. Signing this contract with Intelivote doesn't change that. We still need Intelivote to do the e-voting aspect, and we would still have an electronic list. So if we had a paper ballot, let's say only at the advance poll a week before the election, which is an interesting option, we could do that and have the polls controlled. We would not, I would not recommend that we go with as many polls as we have in the past, because it's too difficult to control every location from a sanitary perspective. So I guess my answer would be we can be a little patient on that one. It doesn't, your decision tonight on that does not impact that ultimate decision. I'm not opposed to going back and considering paper and recommending that to our returning officer. We just need a little bit more time to know for sure.
Thank you very much, Anna. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bob. Okay.
Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, I agree with Deputy Warden Charette. especially down here, it's going to create a problem for in my area here, because of you see the problem I have with my computer down here that I can't get on for, you know, most of the time. So I have to go to the office and get on there. So, you know, how if the internet is down here, you know, how are they going to vote? A lot of people don't like e-voting, but I agree with Councilor Surratt that if we had a paper ballot, and I know that we had mentioned that at the last meeting, and when Kathy had brought this up, it was said that we could always go back and re-look at this again. So, you know, I know in my area, I'm going to have some hard times down here because of people not be able to get on there. If there was a poll, maybe like our CEO, you're saying, well, it can't be as many polls. I agree with that. I know it's costly, but if we had a poll like in the wasteboard area, that would cover down here. It would cover wasteboard for those who wanted to go. It's close by. It's not very far. So I just, you know, that's my 2 cents worth for, because of the internet problems we're having down here, it could be a problem for people to vote.
Councillors. Oh, were you done, Murphy?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay. Councillor Blanc.
If we go with Intelivote, refresh my memory here, but are we not having a polling station with Intelivote computers like we did 8 years ago? My question is directed to CEO Muse.
We would likely, yeah, we would likely create a poll environment, either mobile or stationary, that would allow for people to access the computer at that poll. So it would not be a paper option right now, today. There would be no paper option for that, but they'd come in and say, I want to vote. They could get a helper to go through that process, and it would be in a sanitary situation. I would like to also add that the telephone option is an option. I know it's intimidating for some, but for those that have internet issues, telephone is also part of the electronic voting component, recognizing that too has a bit of challenges, but it is another level of service. Now, if we did polling stations with paper, we would likely not only have one poll. I want to make it clear to council, the amount of polling stations is not a cost issue. If we you know, it's an investment in democracy, right? So it's not the cost. I've actually budgeted under the assumption that we'd be running the same way we did 4 years ago. So if we didn't do some of it, we'd actually be down in costs compared to what we budgeted. It is more safety. Like, can we do it in a safe way where people with COVID or with COVID related symptoms, I should say, for those who don't have it, would feel comfortable in that environment. I will say that, like, people's right to vote is a very, very strong right. And what we're understanding is that if nobody can be refused at the poll like that, and that's been true forever, right? Nobody can be refused at the poll. But if somebody had COVID-like symptoms and still wanted to go in, we for health reasons could not refuse them. So it causes an additional layer of controls that we need to be aware of, right?
Yes. But anybody else? Yes, Councillor Albright.
I just wondered, CEO Muse, is there any indication when you will know what those protocols are? Because I know there's deadlines, right? Like, we have to know kind of soon, but do you have any idea when they'll know what those protocols are? Like, they probably haven't given you a timeline, have they? No.
They say weeks. They say weeks. In a couple of weeks, maybe more.
Yeah.
End of the month, maybe.
Even like school, right? We don't know anything for school, and that's supposed to start in September. This election is supposed to be in October. I'm just wondering, like, will that information come too late for us to make a decision?
I hope not. My confidence answer is we'll have enough time. What happens is you have to hit deadlines for advertising, and so those deadlines, I believe, are in they may even be in September. Okay, there's some of them that are in August, but the ones that matter, I think, are in September, because there's no the advertising in August would be to make sure people that want to be a candidate are aware of how to become a candidate. In September, after the 8th, where that's the deadline for candidacy, at that point in September, you have to advertise how to vote. So I think as long as we know before, mid-August, we should be in a good position to change things if we had to.
Okay. Anybody else? So we need a motion to agree on this agreement, I guess, to sign
So
this.
moved.
Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any other comments? Not seeing any. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded? Carried. A request to the town of Yarmouth Mariner Centre water. Now, I don't see an attachment to that, so.
No. It's very simple. Remo has been working to provide water options to the residents, and what the town of Yarmouth, because they are the owner of the utility, what they require is a request to utilize the Mariner Centre for the distribution of water for our residents, and that should come from council. I would be prepared to recommend that's an appropriate motion. It's an appropriate request, and I believe the municipality of Yarmouth will be doing the same.
I saw some hands. I saw Councillor Murphy.
Yeah, I move the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or more questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded? Carried. The next one is lifting up the tabled motion. And in order to do that, we would need, before we can discuss it, we need a motion to lift it off the table. And then what will happen is the motion will be the same as what it was, as how it was made on June the 9th. And then we can discuss it from there. And then we'll vote on it. We don't need another motion. All we need is a motion to lift it so that we can discuss it. Moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Councillor Bork. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Oh, you had a question, Deputy Warden, you had a question on that? No, okay. So all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded? Carried. So now that the motion is back on, it was moved by, I've got it here. The motion was moved by Kathy Bork and seconded by Nicole Albright that council approve a letter to TIR to request a reduction in speed to 50 kilometers an hour in Eelbrook. Motion to be tabled at that time was done by Councillor LeBlanc and Deputy Warden Stray. Now, I have had, and I just received that today. I picked it up at the office. This letter was written by a resident in the area, and what he's asking for is to reduce the speed limit from where it's 60 below the church right to the Borks Road, where did I see that? Right to the bridge, to have it from there to the bridge. He did not contact anybody beyond that because they feel that that is where most of the danger is. And he's got 2 pages. He contacted everybody in that area, and he's got a couple of areas he said I couldn't get. One is a vacant house. Another one, there wasn't anybody home. They signed. A couple did not answer the door, whatever. But he got the people that he contacted all signed the petition. So what I would recommend, if we pass this, that we include this whole document with our letter. This could really have been sent to the department rather than come through us, if we had wanted to, because the letter is addressed to myself and to Councillor Albright. Apparently he didn't realize who his councillor was, which is why he contacted me, is what he says, and I know him as well. So anyway, so we had discussed the last time that we didn't know whether or not the residents, how the residents would feel. But obviously the residents there have all signed. So my recommendation is that we approve it. I can't say that I can't tell you what to do, but my recommendation is approve it. And all it is we are recommending, or we're sending a letter to, we're not saying it's going to get reduced. We're saying that they look at it, and this is what this is saying here. So, Councillor Bork.
Yes, don't you have to give that to your local MLA like Colton to bring it to?
You don't have.
No?
You can go directly. You can make. I mean, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to include them in the letter that we send. But this is a request to Department TIR, to Transportation Infrastructure.
Because I've contacted Colton about a petition that they wanted on in my district, and he gave me the protocols for a petition, and he's the one that presents it in the House.
Well, he would present it in the House.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But if we send this, and we copy him with all this information,
okay,
that's what he would do. But,
okay.
but see, that's right. The Department of TIR is not going to bring it to the House. But this, if he wanted to bring this to the House, he would be the one to do it for sure.
Right.
So there's a motion on the floor. Councillor Donaldson.
So I can get this straight. Are we talking St. Andrew Russell, or are we talking Eelbrook?
Eelbrook. St. Andrew Russell. St. Andrew Russell. He says Eelbrook, I think, but when he describes where it is, it really falls. Eelbrook starts at the bridge, and this one here would only go up to the bridge.
From
basically
the north of the hog line. Sorry, that's where I live. I had no choice but to say it.
Councillor D'Entremont.
Okay, well now I'm a little confused because as far as I'm concerned, there's 2 bridges. One below the church, one
no. So
which bridge are we talking about here?
It would actually be the bridge that cuts it off. It would be below the church, which is that bridge. That's where the 60 starts.
Okay.
And it goes right through the village. But he's requesting to drop it to 50 once you hit the Eelbrook Bridge, which is where Eelbrook starts and St. Andrew Russell ends. So
the bridge is just north of the fire station.
That's all it is. Yes.
For those of you less familiar.
That's right. Yeah. So it's below the church, past the 2 side roads, Burke Road and E-Lake Road, up to the bridge. That's where he had the signatures. So we have a motion. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, just to add, generally 50 kilometer zones are for basically where there's businesses involved. I don't see that 60 kilometers an hour is very fast going through that area. I travel it often. I rarely use the 103. When I'm driving in my Jeep, to me, 60 is not fast going through there. So I'm just telling you the reason why I'm not going to support this.
Okay. So if there's no other comments or questions, we're ready for the question. My grandson just walked in. No, so if I guess we're ready for the question. All those in favor of sending a letter to TIR along with this petition and everything, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? 2 opposed. Motion carried. Thank you. So what I will do, I will bring this to the office again, and that can be done from the office. Councillor LeBlanc, did you have? No, I see you unmuted. I wasn't sure if you wanted to say something.
No, I must have done it by accident, sorry.
Okay. Okay, the next is correspondence. We have, I don't think I have all the correspondence here. I don't have the attachments for all the correspondence. We have a YMCA-Letter, and maybe I can get it on my phone. It's just that on my phone, it's so small, I can just barely read it. So I can go through them, and if anybody has any comments on any of them, just say so. So we have a letter from the YMCA. Oh, these are letters from YMCA, letters that are from residents with their concern about the closure, I do believe. That's what those were. NSFM COVID-19 Lost Revenue Report. CEO report, and that's from the REN. MOLP-Signed certificate.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just wondering, a question for CAO Muse is how are we doing with collections as far as taxes this year? And do we see much of a difference because of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Digdon. The collections are still very strong. We have up until this point, so we went and borrowed quite a bit of money, as you know, and that's what that MOLP is, the 1.64 million. So far, the deadline for the tax payment plan program that we've put out is July 31st. So far, we have 2. I'm expecting a 3rd application, one of which will be denied. And for a very specific reason that I won't, for privacy purposes, I won't disclose. But there's not been an uptake at all on our program. And so, you plan for the worst. And I think that's what that money represented. Collections are still strong, and we have that money in the bank now. It's not going to cost us money to have borrowed it as early as we did. We're offsetting that by investment revenue. So because the interest was so extraordinarily low. So as council, you don't need to be concerned about borrowing too much money at this point. If we're not using it, it means it's still in our account, which means we're going to be making the payments. The only other point I would make is we may not see the financial impacts of COVID until next year. And so what we see, and I think federal government announced a $300 billion deficit, not this big since like World War II. So, what's happened is that the federal and provincial governments have propped up an economy and have propped up individuals, maybe not everyone, but they have. And so as a consequence of that, I don't know that the impact will hit right now. But then as next year comes along, we may find when the CERB runs out and taxes are payable and those kinds of things happen, we may find ourselves in another phase, or even just 1 year behind on how the phase is impacting us. So good so far, still uncertainty.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. The other one is the Congres Mondial Acadien 2024, and it's the list of they have their board set up now. Water shortage letter, Municipality of Yarmouth. And I guess that was a letter that was sent to the government a while back, I think. And when we had the shortage before, they had kind of indicated that there would be help there, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Yes, Deputy Warden.
On that letter, I'd like to ask the CAO where we are with the water. If it gets worse, how are we making out? I know you sent an email to all of us on the question I had asked, and on that email, I tell you what, there was some stuff that I had never taken into consideration, which you brought up well. I should have known, but I guess at times a person forgets with COVID-19, it's not just as easy as going to a fire hall and opening up a tap, without thinking who's coming next behind at that tap and putting their hands on it too, or whatever. If this, their spit goes on it or whatever. But maybe for the public, I've spoken to probably a dozen people, no problems yet. They were just asking, would you mind, CAO, to say if the measures that EMO is taking, we should have that ready by the end of July, do you think? Just for the public out there.
Right. Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, the REMO work so far has been to secure the West Pumlico water, which would be a non-drinkable water supply. If you recall, we had spent some money last year setting up a pump and associated equipment to make sure that it would work well there. And so that will be open. I'm not sure exactly what day. That's still being worked out. But I think it looks like it's going to be open like 2-3 days a week for certain periods of time. So we'll make sure everybody knows that. The Mariner Center will be opening, in part based on the fact that you requested it to be opened. But knowing that we would probably get a positive answer, we had to add some infrastructure there as well in order to make it work better. The town will provide a connection and it'll work a lot better there than it did before. Again, those will be scheduled, and our plan will be to have 2 to 3 people at each location every time it's open, and they will have protocols as to what they need to do. So they'll be wearing masks, they'll be cleaning, they'll be doing everything that needs to be done, which is why it's harder now to do drought related planning, because we don't necessarily want to be in a situation where we're putting people at risk. So will there be drinking water made available? Yes, there will. That plan is underway. There will be, it's underway, a coupon program where people will be able to pick up a coupon at their local municipality and bring it to the retailer of choice. And they would get a free bottle of 4-liter water or whatever is available. We are currently trying to secure EMO province money for that, but we may actually have to spend some of our own money before we ask them for it. However, we are moving actively in that direction. So what would happen is the retailers, regardless of where somebody brought that in, they would once a month or regularly bill us for the coupons that came in. And that will be for the municipality and of Yarmouth and of Argyll. We will manage it. The coupons will be different colors, will be billed by the retailer, and we will bill Yarmouth for their portion. That's the plan. It's not official. It's not landed publicly exactly when it will begin, but that's where we are in terms of the approach. As far as well lending, we do have well lending program, as you know. So I'm just repeating it for those that might be watching. We provide a low interest loan to residents who require or wish to either improve their well, add a new well, or put other equipment to support water conservation. So you can borrow up to $15,000. We've received, I want to say, at least a half a dozen requests, if not more, in the past 3 weeks or so. Marsha leads that project, and I think we have 7 or 8 of them that could potentially turn into more loans. So we may have to come to you to ask for permission to lend more money based on that program. I think that's, so we are working closely with provincial EMO, and the town has been very gracious in allowing us to access their water system. And we ask for people's patience because we can't deliver all of the things that we used to in the same way that we've done. And, you know, if you have any suggestions for improvements to the system, please don't hesitate to send them my way. And we can filter them through our remote coordination and make sure that your ideas are at least considered, and some of them will have to be no, right? But if we don't know what you're thinking, we may miss an opportunity to do something different.
Marciala.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, one thing I'd like to mention, wasn't the bottled water situation grossly abused the last time around? People taking basically just free water that perhaps didn't need it. I know someone aboard fishing boats and all kinds of different stories. So I'm thinking people that qualify for a tax rebate on their taxes would qualify for free drinking water, but the general public just coming in and picking up water whenever they feel like it was basically what was happening. And I know some municipalities don't give out bottled drinking water. Just want thoughts from the rest of the councillors.
Okay.
To answer the question on abuse, it was abused.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know, voraciously, like it, but there were people that could have easily bought, that chose not to because the service was provided so freely, which is why the coupon method is a little bit more controlled, that they'd have to go to the municipal office to obtain a coupon. And every time you go in, like if people were just repeat, then we would be able to manage that situation more directly.
Okay. We're good on that. Next one was the Municipality of Barrington letter of thanks, and that was for the letter of support that we had sent, that they had requested. Bid evaluation, these are just, that's some work that's going to get done at the brewery, and we had a couple of bids for contractors. Vacant position, Board of Western Regional Housing Authority. Now this is not something, how much of a hurry, or we don't appoint someone from council on that. That's not.
No.
Okay.
No, councillors and employees of council and of the housing authority are specifically excluded. We cannot actually put our names in.
Okay.
This is for your information because we will be doing a process to find a candidate. Once we find a suitable candidate, we'll bring it to you for your approval. Your responsibility is to approve the application.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's a correspondence. Financial request we have from A to Y. We have a lot. So rather than go through each one, I can list them all. I can go through them and list them, and we can make one motion to approve them all. Is that okay with the Is that Deputy Warden?
It's just that I've always at the meetings we've had this. It's all been individual, Mr. Warden. I guess CEO Muse maybe could answer that. We couldn't before, but maybe something has changed.
No, I think we did do it at one time in the spit when the new budget came. I do believe we had a whole list of them, and I think that's how we had done it at that time. This was a while back. But anyway, CEO Muse, what do you think?
My biggest concern would be that we get the amounts. It matters not to me if you have the same mover and seconder for every amount, right? But that we're clear on the amounts. That's my biggest concern always.
Okay.
It is entirely up to you. I know in the past I kind of pushed back when you guys asked this. It's like, no, maybe you should do each one at a time. But recognizing you have like 84 of them now. So as long as we know what the amount approved will be, because that's ultimately the councillor to decide whether or not it's a 500 or 4 or 3 or 2.
Okay.
Well, they're all 500.
They're all 500.
Yeah.
So if the consensus of all of the councillors inside here, and we're all here, right? If the consensus is that it's all going to be recommended 500, and there's no issue with that, then I think you could comfortably do one mover and one seconder approving 500 for each of the organizations.
What do you say? We go with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have community grant for Immaculate Conception Cemetery. And I'm going to say it, these are all $500, every one of them. The Kempville Bicentennial Society, the Abrams River Schoolhouse Society, East Pubnico Social Action Committee, Club Social des Îles, West Pubnico Fire Protection Association, Naquil Community Trail Project, Comos Hill Beach Committee, La Roche de Saint-Pierre Trail, Pubnico and Area Lions Club, East Side Community Center, San Gabriel Cemetery, Seal Island Church Society, the Village Historique Acadien, Patchwork Pals, Quinnen and District Volunteer Fire Department, Eelbrook and District Fire Department, Pubnico Point Trail, St. Joseph's Parish, Indian Slough Seniors Club, Église Sainte-Famille, the Festival de la Barge, Twin Village Social Club, Club des Audacieux, West Pubnico Golf Club Association. So these are the requests, all in the amount of $500. So can we have a moved by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Bork? Any questions on any of them?
Point of order, you didn't do them in alphabetical order. I think you may have to go through the list again.
It was A to Y. I tried. I got mixed.
You gotta go to the bathroom, Alan.
Okay. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded. So all these are approved.
There's 12,500 going.
So, I guess I missed something here. No, there it is. Agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by councillors. Councillor LeBlanc.
Not a notice of motion. I just didn't know the appropriate time. Earlier, I mentioned the intermunicipal agreement with the REN. The significant change that we did this year was add to the audit committee an independent member of the community, and that's all it is. Which
okay.
Just wanted to inform you.
Yep, that's good. Hearing none, question period. Did we get any kind of question online?
No.
No question.
I'll take this opportunity just to remind council that we have basically taken care of all the district community grants before the July 31st deadline. We didn't have any policy that described the grants to organizations, the regular grants to organizations process, because at the time of the last election, we only had an April distribution. So we don't have policy to support it, but by practice, what we're doing and what we've done is we've told our grants to organization applicants that we will accept applications up until July 15th to make a decision on the second distribution by the end of July. And then again, the ultimate deadline still remains at the 15th of September, but we will be unable to make a decision on that until after the election.
And the grants for the clubs, we've given our money.
Correct.
We had two, so there's no more grants for the clubs to be accepted this year.
We had one applicant.
You've had one applicant, and we gave both because we had said we would go with the rather than 10,000, we had reduced it to 5,000 this year, but we gave both the 10,000 to the one applicant. So the application for those are closed now. Then we don't accept any more applications for the clubs.
Not exactly. So what we said was in the budget, we only budgeted 10,000, which means, and we did that purposely because COVID and we weren't sure where we would be. So we budgeted 10,000 and that was to go to, and the policy says it can be up to $10,000 per applicant. Yes. So we have one applicant and we distributed the 10. If we receive another application for the club, for another club in the future, we will have to make a decision at that point whether or not we're going to accept it this year or whether we're going to defer it to next.
Okay. Okay, good now. So that completes this, except now we have an in-camera session. So we need a motion to go in camera. Moved by Councillor Bork, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc.